What's up, YouTube? It's Joe Catchpolia sitting on the couch making some money investing in fractional real estate online. As usual, it is Friday, so it's time for this week's installment of the 52-week challenge. This is where I share all the fractional real estate that I bought this week and invite you to do the same. Sort of our virtual accountability group. Some people like to put it in the comments of the video or in the Discord, and then it seems like the preferred method is just to DM me about what you're investing in. Any of those things you are welcome to do. I think the more that we just do it openly as a community, the better off we're all going to be. The whole goal of this channel in general is to just, create a community of fractional real estate investors that are helping each other, that are, sharing due diligence, sharing thoughts on different platforms, letting us know their experience. That's what I'm trying to do. With that, I do want to mention, I've actually had a couple people bring up to me lately that the general tone in both the Discord I've set up and also on the Lofty Discord is really abrasive to some of them. I know I've mentioned this in my Discord as well. I think it's counterproductive. Whenever, if you have new people coming to the platform, thinking that they're going to invest, and they just see, people cursing at each other, or just making racial jokes, or just generally being disrespectful to one another, I think we're going to lose a lot of the potential investors that could make our platform much better. I know recently somebody who was going to bring several properties to one of the platforms decided against it, really just because he saw how people interact with some of the it was to Lofty, but he saw how people interact with a lot of the co-owners, and some of them deservedly so. But it's tough for someone new to figure out, like, is this someone that is has scammed lots of people, or is it just somebody who's trying to answer questions and maybe is slow? And I think sometimes our users are not differentiating as well. So anyway, it's a weird aside, but I just wanted to mention again, I think the more that we can all be professional with one another, the better the community is going to be, because it is, we don't want to chase away the more professional investors that get into this space, the faster it will grow. And I really believe that's going to be better for all of us. Before I forget, please like and subscribe. In the description of this video, I have links to all the places where I'm currently investing in fractional real estate online. Please do your own due diligence on all those platforms, and also on any of the properties that you see me talk about. Just because I buy a property doesn't mean that you should. We're going to have different risk preferences. We're going to have different time frames, all that sort of thing. So you want to make sure that it's a deal that works for you. Don't ever just buy something because you see me buying it, please. Also, in the description of this video, I have a link to that Discord channel that I set up that I just mentioned. It is just a place. It's intended to be one where you can jump in and share what you're buying, share your strategies, share due diligence with one another, ask questions about different platforms. We have over 270 people. It's a pretty active community in several of the channels. I think there's especially, I think the most productive one is the mogul one. Every time a new property comes out, people are sharing thoughts, people are sharing due diligence. I'd like to see a lot more of that going on. I think that's really the goal. And then also just a place for us to organize if we are going to approach some of the platforms with some of our thoughts, complaints, ideas, whatever. But there is no cost. There's it's not a sales funnel. So please feel free to join. If you get DM'd by someone who looks like me, who tries to sell you anything at all, that's not me. It's an imposter. Please report them. Okay, back to this. So what did I buy this week? On Lofty, I bought some of this 11604 DK Ranch Road in Austin. This is a short-term rental. I've actually owned some tokens in this one for a very long time. It's been a pretty stable, the average yield I've gotten on it is 8.83%. It's been pretty stable over time. It's a short-term rental, so it hasn't been perfectly stable, but it's been one of my more consistent ones. I actually invested early in this one, and so paid, I think, too much for my initial tokens. But currently, there's been tokens around $30, and so I picked up a few, not a ton. I think at $30, it's tough to get a real sense of what a property like this is worth. I deal with a lot of these in San Antonio where it's been, the way it's set up and everything, it's being used as a short-term rental and wouldn't necessarily appeal to a homeowner if you just sold it. This one is actually relatively easy, I think, to, make the space usable for living, but I just think it's not the easiest home to value. I think there's, the Zillow value, in my guess, is that it's a little low. But the other two platforms, Redfin and Realtor, both think it's worth even less. At the Zillow valuation, I think that you're basically breaking even if you had to sell this today with today's token prices, even though it's at a discount. But I think there's a good chance that it's worth more than that. It's always tough to. We have this problem here in town too. Is properly comping these homes that have a pool. I think just a lot of the platforms don't give proper credit for that. Could be wrong. It's one that I'm hoping this co-owner just continues to operate and pays a reasonable yield on, and then someday in the future, maybe we make some money. Austin's a market. I have a couple other investments there, but it's a market that I think will do well long term, even if they have had a dip in value over the last several years. So anyway, that's the only property I bought on Lofty. And we'll see. As you've noticed from some of my recent videos, I've definitely lost some money on deals on Lofty. So far, my net is positive. I've done actually pretty well, but a lot of my recent deals have been money losers. So we'll see. All right, what's next? Groundfloor. This one has just been really consistent for me. I keep buying, a couple of LROs, whatever comes out. This week, there were only 2 that came out. You can see I actually had significantly more payoffs. So I'm down to 107 total loans. I was up in the high teens. I've again got more cash, if I'm putting the same $100 into every single one. So I, have a little bit of cash accumulating, and it just ebbs and flows, right? Sometimes there's more LROs, sometimes there's less. But so I'm going to just keep this up. You can see I still have 15 in extended status. I don't have any new ones that have gone in there. And one did pay off. I think I mentioned that last week already. I don't know. As long as this keeps going the way it's going, and I'm keeping an eye on these older extended ones. I wish I wasn't making such chunky investments when I first got on this platform, right? I didn't realize I really should have just been making, the same one, because some of these loans are, I've got 450, some of them are 180. They're all different amounts too. If I had it to do over, I would have started with just pick a small amount, put the same amount in every single loan, like $100 in every single loan. Once I got, to where, okay, I couldn't put any more money on, then I'd start upping it a little bit. Because I think what happened is because I did that with the early ones where my average loan amount that I invested in was larger, or they weren't all the same. I think that just sort of the luck of the draw, I got a lot of the big ones stuck. Having basically had all of I think I have one $50 one in here, and the rest of them are big, and have basically had really good luck with all the others. You can see of my closed loans, 122 of them were extended and paid off. So tons of these small ones have been extended and paid off. And 107 performed as expected and paid off as well. So, in general, I still think most of these will eventually pay off, but some of them might sit there for a long time. I'm just going to keep plugging away, buying deals like I did this week, and we'll see what happens. And then the last thing I bought this week was the Mary. This is a property on Arrived. I bought this on their secondary market. This is I think, it's a long-term rental, right? I'm pretty sure. Oh man, I should have looked back at this before I did this. Long-term rental. It is, the most recent dividend annualized is 6.52%. When they do this is at the 10% share value. I actually bought it slightly less than that. Their arrived valuation thinks it's worth a little bit more. I think I have bought this property at a very small discount to the real world value. But it's a long-term rental that's, has a history of yielding 6.5%. I think sometimes even, or maybe, I guess maybe sometimes even 7. Yeah, you can see several months it was 7. And I think at the price that I bought it at, my yield looked like it was closer to 7 than this. But so, long-term rental. This one is in, where was this one? In Talbot, Tennessee. This is a new market for me. I probably should do a video of the due diligence I did on this one. I just sort of did it and jumped into it. But, 2023 build for this type of property, getting a pretty solid yield at what I think is a, slight discount to market. And that's all in, right? That's like including all of their fees and everything that, all the expenses that they have built on top of this purchase. I think that if you just divide the actual real world value by the shares outstanding, I think that I actually got a discount on this. So that's something I've been really trying to pay attention to, the arrived secondary market, because there are some of these deals. I only got a few of these. They came up. Not very many of them were listed at the price that I got them. I think actually somebody snagged some that were even cheaper than the ones that I got. But one last day of trading for this cycle. And then I think every single month there's going to be a week of trading after this. And if I can keep picking up deals, I have one other open order on here. I've also got an open order on ARC 7, I think. But if I can keep picking up deals where I can get a reasonable yield, mid to high single digits, but on long-term rentals in markets that I expect to do well, on properties that are like this, relatively new builds, and I can get like even just a slight discount and an okay yield. These are ones I think I would just add to my portfolio, and especially because, there's a lot of different options, and so I can get some good diversification. So I'm pretty excited about the arrived secondary market. I think that there's only going to be more and more opportunities, until a lot of people catch on and then they're buying them as well. I feel similar to, as ARC 7 too. I know I've talked about that one quite a bit lately, and I have one other open order, but I didn't actually get it, and I don't know why, because I thought I had put it in at a price where it would, actually sell this week or actually go through. So I have to go back and look at that, because when I looked at what I actually bought, I didn't have any that closed. So anyway, that's everything that I bought this week. Like I said, please feel free to share what you bought. You can put it in the comments to this video. You can jump in the Discord, or as always, and the people that do, feel free to just keep DMing me. I know on Lofty, on ARC 7, on Arrived, we are competing for deals, right? So you might not want to talk about it unless that you've bought, you've already got the deal that you were looking for, and then want to alert other people to it. But especially, I think that's probably the reason Mogul has the most collaboration, is because the price is the price, and so we're all just buying at that price. And maybe once their secondary market opens up, it's going to be a little bit different, right? I don't buy anything that goes on the, that's an initial marketplace for Arrived, right? If you click on their Invest tab, I never have looked at one of these and thought, oh, that's a good deal, right? It really is, the secondary market for me is where I find deals that make the most sense. I think the same is true on ARC 7 and whatnot. And so, I don't know. I guess that's the big difference. But if you've already, if you've identified a deal, the biggest thing is, I think that's helpful, is if you identify reasons to not buy a property. I think we can all share that information with each other and have that not be an issue, right? I mean, because I don't want, if I find some glaring problem with something, I don't want anybody in our community to invest in it if it's not going to, if it's going to be something that it's just clearly not making sense for them. So that's a thing I think that, you know, we can all do, even on ones that, you know, even on the platforms where we might be competing with each other. Anyway, that's all I've got for today. Until next time, I'm just going to keep making mistakes so that you don't have to.